Once you've given birth to the child, Emma becomes unnecessary. That's what Serena, my mother-in-law, said as she held my son Calvin close. Serena, who had been so kind until Calvin was born, was glaring at me with an expression I had never seen before. The constant berating made me painfully aware that this was Serena's true nature. Speechless, I was met with Serena's laughter. "I'll make sure to raise this child properly. My name is Emma, and I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Holden for 4 years now." Holden and I met in college and married after graduation. The in-laws' house is a plane ride away from my hometown. I had planned to work in my hometown after graduating from a nearby university, but plans changed. Holden, too, had received a job offer from a company in his hometown and returned there upon graduation. We ended up in a long-distance relationship for about a year after that, but things between us were going well. We both lived lives where, aside from school, we worked part-time jobs to pay for tuition. So we were never really into romantic dates and were used to not seeing each other much. After getting a job, Holden seemed to have more free time and would often check in on me. I told him he didn't have to worry about his mom so much since we weren't kids anymore, but he still did. Time flew by in this manner until it was time for me to narrow down my job offers after finishing the rest of my college life. I was expected to earn a qualification in childcare, so I wanted to work at a childcare center. I was torn between working at a childcare center in my hometown or Holden's. Going to Holden's hometown meant we could get married right away. However, my mom was living alone in my hometown. My grandmother had passed away right before I started college, leaving my mom feeling lonely. I had decided to return to my mom's house after graduation, but that started to waver once I began dating Holden. Neither Mom nor Holden pressured me. I talked about Holden a lot over the phone with my mom, so she was okay with the marriage, and Holden, having grown up in a fatherless home, understood my feelings towards my mom well. After much deliberation, I decided to move to Holden's. The job conditions were somewhat better in Holden's hometown, and it seemed like Serena really liked me. Initially, we lived in an apartment Holden had already signed for. Unlike when we were students, I started contributing half of the living expenses from my salary. As a dual income couple, we had a bit more financial freedom and could afford to go on overnight trips once a month. As we felt more settled, we started thinking about having children, and then, suddenly, our apartment was nearly destroyed in a fire. The exact cause was unclear, but it was suspected to be due to another resident's negligence. Fortunately, there were no injuries, and we were not home during the day. Still, losing all our furniture, appliances, and other possessions that were only a few years old was a shock. Serena heard about the fire and immediately came over in a cab, pulling us from our days in front of the apartment and taking us to the in-laws' house. She had left her house immediately after seeing a news report about the fire. "You can live in this house for a while. Come on, don't look so gloomy." Despite being overwhelmed by Serena's assertiveness, I slowly started to feel better. Holden and I had left with almost nothing, but the in-laws' house had most essentials, so it seemed we could manage. The land and the house were spacious. There were more rooms than Serena could use, and she prepared one for us. Thus, our temporary living arrangement with Serena was smoothly decided, and Holden felt guilty. There's nothing for Holden to apologize for. Actually, we're very grateful. Serena treated me like her own daughter and was a youthful, lively person. Serena was very accepting of us being a dual income couple and did most of the housework. Feeling bad about leaving all the household chores to her as a wife, I made sure to help Serena out on weekends. "Emma, you're such a hard worker. You should rest on weekends, especially since you're contributing to the household expenses." Serena would say this, and after discussing it several times, Holden and I decided not to just live here temporarily, but to settle down. "We'll contribute to the household expenses in exchange for you doing the housework." When Holden mentioned settling down, Serena's eyes lit up with joy. "Leave the housework to me. It's embarrassing to admit, but I can't earn a living outside like Holden and Emma anymore. Having you two around makes every day enjoyable. I'm looking forward to our future together." And so, our cohabitation was decided. Thanks to Serena, I could focus on my job, and a year went by smoothly. However, I started feeling unwell more frequently around this time. Serena noticed something was off and urged me to go to the hospital. Despite lacking clear symptoms like coughing or a runny nose, I went to the hospital due to unusual tiredness and nausea I had never felt before. That's when I found out I was pregnant. Though unexpected, the ultrasound showed the clear presence of a new life. Trembling with joy, I returned home to Serena, waiting worriedly. Upon hearing about my pregnancy, "It's a celebration!" Serena clapped her hands in delight. Of course, Holden was also thrilled. Seeing Holden gently touch my stomach, Serena advised him, "Holden, you need to step up now since things are going to be even harder for Emma." Knowing the baby's gender was a boy thrilled Serena, who was already excited about her first grandchild. Serena became even more attentive to my well-being, noticing even my slightest movements. Her concern was reasonable for me, but her attitude towards Holden seemed a bit excessive. She handed him parenting books, instructing him in detail about the changes in a woman's body and how a baby grows. While it was helpful that Holden, my parenting partner, was well informed about childcare, I was internally worried about Serena's overbearing care, given Holden's work commitments. Serena seemed to have a strong desire for a boy. She shared that there used to be pressure to continue the family business, though it's not necessary now. Serena herself was pressured by relatives until Holden was born. Fearing criticism from now-deceased father-in-law and his relatives about parenting, Serena's fervor was somewhat understandable. After informing my workplace about the pregnancy and discussing my leave, Serena often suggested, "Shouldn't you quit your job right now? Are you sure your body is handling it well?" I resisted each time she brought it up. Honestly, I felt Serena was becoming overly protective, and working gave me a break from that. I wanted to joyfully anticipate the baby's arrival without feeling overwhelmed by the environment. However, I couldn't discuss this with Holden, who was facing even stricter attitudes from Serena. At that time, Serena seemed almost obsessed. Despite the pressure, I successfully gave birth to my son Calvin. Serena visited during my hospital stay, holding Calvin as much as she could until a nurse reminded her visiting hours were over. Her overexcitement seemed utterly unreasonable, even for a first grandchild. The source of my discomfort soon became clear. Serena had been at the hospital since early morning on my discharge day, having convinced someone to drive her. The nurse, upon hearing this, rushed my discharge preparations, but I felt terrible for the hospital staff. I couldn't leave until the hospital's reception opened, and during that time, Serena called me multiple times. "I came because I was worried about Emma and Calvin. I want to see your faces soon." Trying to soothe Serena, who spoke with a tearful voice despite seeing us the day before, I apologized to the nurse. Since Holden was at work, Serena came to pick us up, so I couldn't really say anything against it. Hours later, when we finally came out, Serena embraced us. She didn't let go of Calvin the whole way home, but since she had waited for us for so long, I decided not to say anything. As soon as we got home, I changed Calvin's diaper. Serena watched over my shoulder the entire time. As soon as I stepped away, she immediately picked up Calvin. I turned to Serena and said, "I'm going to do the laundry from the hospital stay," but she didn't respond. When I repeated myself, "Just hurry up, I'm busy, so please don't talk to me," she glared at me with an expression I had never seen before. Frozen by her sudden change, Serena nonchalantly mentioned, "Relatives are coming over soon, so get ready. I've already prepared the food." She nodded towards the kitchen. It was a drastic change. I had to start preparing for the guests without even having time to unpack. My body hadn't fully recovered yet, and I felt pain moving around. Whenever Calvin cried for a feed, Serena would reluctantly hand him to me, but stayed close to him otherwise. All of Serena's attention was on Calvin. The expected 5 guests turned into 10, including neighbors who weren't relatives. Naturally, I was too busy to greet anyone. While I was struggling with postpartum pain, Naomi, a neighbor, noticed and asked, "Hey, Emma, are you okay?" Before I could answer, Serena loudly interjected, "She just got discharged today. People these days make such a big deal out of everything." "Just discharged? Sit down right now. We'll take care of everything." Naomi's words seemed to trigger a commotion among the guests. It appeared they hadn't been informed. Some, feeling awkward, started to stand up. Seeing this, Serena, perhaps panicking, began showing off Calvin to each guest. "None of you have grandchildren yet. You better hurry up," boasting. The atmosphere tensed intensely. In front of a stunned crowd, Serena's tirade didn't stop. "I endured pressure from my husband, mother-in-law, and their relatives while giving birth to Holden. And after my husband passed, I raised him alone. Now, Holden has had Calvin, and our history continues. How long will you all continue living your current lives? It's not my concern." And Serena's smug grin made some guests uncomfortable enough to leave, even though she hadn't finished. The food I had prepared went uneaten as everyone left. Oh dear, what a waste of food! They could have enjoyed themselves more. Come on, Emma, you should leave too. Calvin will be raised by me and Holden. Excuse me? Serena suddenly turned and pointed at me. Now that you've given birth to Calvin, you're unnecessary here. Go do whatever job you're good at. I don't need you anymore. Leave the child and go, now. Well, if you want to be favored again, try getting pregnant next time. At my limit, I responded. Understood. I'll leave. My belongings were still packed from the hospital, so I had everything I needed for the moment. I packed some clothes and daily necessities and carried them out. Serena, having lost interest in me, didn't see me off, but went straight to the bathroom after putting Calvin in a new bed. I didn't wait for her to say goodbye. Then I'll just leave the child here as you wish. Those were my last words to Serena. Unsurprisingly, there was no response from her. I boarded a bus with my belongings and decided to rest at a nearby hotel. The next day, I checked out of the hotel, planning to take a bus to my parents' home. When I turned on my phone, I found numerous missed calls from Serena. I had turned off my phone last night, anticipating this. Then, Serena called again, and I answered. I was worried because I couldn't reach you. Where are you? You're not worried about me, are you? Answer my question. Where are you now? I'm heading back to my parents' home, with Calvin. That's not what we agreed on! Serena screamed so loud her voice cracked. Why is that? I left your son Holden just as I was supposed to, didn't I? I'm taking my child back to my parents' home. Serena growled like a beast, finally understanding the situation. When I left the in-laws' house, Serena hadn't seen me because she was in the bathroom, so she didn't realize I had taken Calvin with me. She must have come out of the bathroom after I had completely left, too late to catch up. Since then, she had been calling me repeatedly. Now that I had turned on my mobile phone, she was finally able to reach me. I had left without telling Holden, so both of them must have been in a panic. I knew it was a harsh way to deal with Holden, but I thought I needed to get away from Serena first. Dragging a newborn around for hours is cruel, don't you think? It's much better than not letting me and Calvin rest on the day of our discharge, as you insisted. Plus, my mom came to pick us up halfway, so we're taking breaks on the way back. Oh, and after hearing the situation, my mom said she won't let Calvin see her again. So, I guess there will be no further interaction with you. Thank you for everything, Serena. Take care. Without waiting for Serena's reply, I hung up immediately. I set Serena's number to block, then hurried home. My mom had quickly prepared, and when I got home, a clean baby bed was already set up. It must have been tough. You're probably exhausted. We can talk about everything later. For now, both you and Calvin need to rest. Just as my mom said, Calvin had been constantly on the move since yesterday, always crying. Thinking about the hardship I had put my newborn through brought me to tears, and my mom was there to comfort me the entire time. It was the moment my pent-up tension finally broke. Calvin was doing well, and the day passed by quickly. Having been alone for so long, the house has suddenly become brighter, my mom said, soothing Calvin without any sign of discomfort. A month had passed, and I had gotten used to Calvin's routine, finally finding some time to breathe. But then I received a call from an unknown number. I had a bad feeling about it. As expected, it was Serena. Hey, where's Holden? Is he there with you? Serena's voice, which I hadn't heard in a long time, sounded much older. To think you would take away Holden after Calvin, you heartless woman.
Instead of arguing with Serena's ranting, I passed the phone to Holden, who was beside me. Mom? Actually, the business trip I mentioned was a lie. Over the past month, after hearing Emma and her mom's story, I was shocked by your sudden change. I can't believe you would harass Emma. Sorry, but I'm prioritizing Emma and Calvin. Movers will come for my things soon, so don't touch the boxes in the storage. Also, I've quit my job, so calling there is pointless. Please don't contact us anymore. Holden spoke unilaterally before hanging up. It was a difficult decision for him, fearing that prolonging the conversation might lead to unnecessary attachment. The day after I left the in-laws' house, Holden also reached out. When I told him that Serena had taken Calvin from me and kicked me out, he immediately decided to cut ties with Serena. He informed his company of the situation and began the resignation process, packing his belongings in secret from Serena. When he finally met Calvin after taking refuge here, Holden cried for a long time. Now we were cooperating in raising Calvin, which gave me a sense of relief. Holden had already started looking for a new job. With the skills he had acquired from his previous job, it seemed likely he would find a good position even as a mid-career hire. Soon after, we moved out of our old house. The sale of the land provided a bit more money, so my mom covered all the initial costs for the new house. To our surprise, after we had moved, Serena showed up at the old house by plane. By the time Serena arrived, the house had been demolished and turned into an empty lot. After some hesitation, she called Holden and found out we had moved. Holden then blocked Serena's calls. Serena had lost all means of contacting us. Holden occasionally receives texts from a close relative. According to them, Serena has become a lonely old woman, having lost her grandson, son, and daughter-in-law, and is now the laughingstock of the neighborhood, especially among those gathered on the day of my discharge, whom she had boasted to about giving birth to Holden. She is now ridiculed by them. The neighbors present at that time spread bad words about Serena, and unable to bear the situation, she sold the house and disappeared. The aged sound in her voice when she called me might have been because she was already facing backlash. What goes around comes around, as they say. I hope Serena lives her remaining years with dignity, not forgetting this lesson. As for us, we are thriving with each new day. I can't take my eyes off Calvin's daily growth, and my mom seems rejuvenated by his energy. Holden has successfully found a new job and cherishes his time with Calvin despite his busy schedule. Surrounded by people who care for Holden and me, I am living a peaceful and happy life. We run a farm, and one day, a bank officer responsible for loans showed up unexpectedly. Sponsoring a company with no future is pointless. It would only tarnish my reputation. Why do I have to deal with such a farm? And berated us. Believing him to be an elite, the banker continued. There's no money for a debt-ridden farm like yours. The loan is cut off. Pay back the $100,000 we lent you by next week. My name is Emily, 32 years old. I run the farm with my husband Christopher and my parents-in-law. I started working at a restaurant right after graduating from high school. Christopher was a part-time worker at the restaurant, and initially, I learned a lot from him about preparing vegetables, which led to frequent conversations. He was attending an agricultural college, knew a lot about fresh vegetables and cooking methods, and was a dependable person. Talking with Christopher was always fun, and when he graduated from college, I confessed my feelings, and we started dating. Christopher went back to his hometown to take over the farm, turning our relationship long distance, but it went well, and after working 4 years at the restaurant, I married him. Christopher had always been passionate about continuing farming to have many people enjoy his vegetables, which I supported, leading me to move in with his parents and help with the farm after marriage. Contrary to the common stress from the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, my mother-in-law Ashley and I get along well. Our family works together happily on the farm, which is our pride. Using my restaurant experience, I started making processed goods, selling them on websites and cafes. Gradually, word of mouth spread, and our sales began to increase. Visiting restaurants to promote our vegetables became an essential part of my job, where my negotiation skills often come in handy thanks to my restaurant background. 2 years into our marriage, our daughter Jessica was born, and now our family of 5 lives harmoniously. Jessica, turning 8 this year, grows up healthy, playing in nature and eating fresh vegetables daily, making me grateful for marrying Christopher. Our company has been continuously receiving loans from a bank closely associated with father-in-law James. The bank's loan officer, Mr. Smith, has been very helpful, teaching us anything we needed to know. One year, with Mr. Smith's retirement, we had to deal with a change in the bank's loan officer. It's the bank's policy to change officers every few years, and this was the 4th time for us. Mr. Smith was the most approachable and supportive officer we had encountered. We were really grateful for the help, so we wished Mr. Smith could have stayed on a bit longer, but retirement is retirement. For the handover, Mr. Smith brought his successor, Mr. Johnson, to introduce him to us. Mr. Johnson, a young employee of 25, had been transferred to our branch. "Nice to meet you. I'm Michael Johnson, your new contact. I was considered an elite at my previous branch, so rest assured." He was a slightly plump man with a friendly smile. His self-declaration as an elite was a bit off-putting, but since we would be working with him, we greeted him politely. Mr. Johnson took over from Mr. Smith, carefully clarifying any uncertainties, making us feel comfortable leaving things in his hands. After a smooth transition, Mr. Smith retired. One day, while we were working in the field, a car horn sounded. It's a rare occurrence on this seldom-traveled road, so turning around in surprise, I saw Mr. Johnson driving. Wondering what brought him here unexpectedly without any prior contact, I stopped my work and approached him. "Hello, is there something you need? We didn't have an appointment today." Thinking maybe Christopher had made some arrangements, I called him over from where he was working nearby. "No appointment or not, this company is drowning in debt. How did it ever receive loans in this state? Supporting a futureless company makes no sense. It would only tarnish my record. Why should I deal with such a farm? This countryside doesn't suit me. I'll improve my performance and return to an urban branch soon." He looked at us disdainfully, clicking his tongue. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this the same Mr. Johnson from the handover? "Sorry, but what you're saying doesn't quite make sense. The loan amount was decided after discussions with your predecessor, Mr. Smith." Irritated by my response, Mr. Johnson raised his voice even more. "This is why I hate talking to idiots. There's no money to waste on a debt-ridden farm like yours. I won't be responsible for such a mess. It's going to save my career. The loan is cut off. Make sure to repay the $100,000 we loaned you by next week." As he refused to listen, "Are you sure you won't regret this?" I asked, to which he responded with a sneer, "Nope," and drove off immediately. What was that attitude? Christopher, frustrated, threw his gloves to the ground. "We should cancel our account with this bank. Let's do it now." Heading to the bank to close our account caused quite a stir within the institution. The bank branch manager was out, so the bank deputy manager, along with Mr. Johnson, came to apologize to us. "I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience our employee has caused. Could you possibly reconsider the cancellation?" The deputy manager deeply apologized. "You should apologize too," and urged Mr. Johnson to do the same. However, did I say something wrong? It's hard for a mere farm to turn a profit, and with so much debt, it's only logical to cut off the loan, Mr. Johnson retorted. He showed no sign of remorse. The deputy manager, turning pale, explained, "You're not looking at the whole picture. There are good debts and bad debts. Companies investing in their future, even if in debt now, are reliable partners. This client has been increasing sales through product development, promotion, and new ventures for the past 10 years. This loan was for buying more land and leasing machinery to till it, aiming to improve productivity and increase shipments. We've secured new sales channels for the increased production, so profits are expected to rise. Even though we're in the red this fiscal year, we anticipate turning a profit in the coming years. There's no need for a loan cancellation." The bank deputy manager explains to Mr. Johnson, but if you're a good manager, you won't run a deficit, and didn't listen at all. Mr. Johnson was only looking at the farm's management in terms of profit and loss, failing to understand the reasons behind the deficit. The deputy bank manager continued to explain with dismay. This client has been developing new products, promoting and expanding into new markets for the past 10 years. The current loan was for purchasing more farmland and leasing machinery for cultivation. The goal is to improve productivity and increase shipments. With the new sales channels secured for the increased output, profits will rise. Despite the deficit this fiscal year, we expect profitability in the coming years. There's no justification for canceling the loan. Mr. Johnson, still unconvinced, said defiantly, turning to us with a smug look. Deputy manager, you're being deceived. There's no need to deal with such incompetent managers. Since you're such incompetent managers, can you quickly repay the 100,000? He asked, scoffing. The deputy manager turned even paler and apologized to us repeatedly, but we decided to cancel all our bank accounts on the spot. We withdrew a total of $300,000 and slammed down the $100,000 payment. There's no problem now, is there? I said, glaring at Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, seemingly not expecting us to have $300,000, looked dismayed and broke into a cold sweat, perhaps realizing he might have been wrong. Thank you for your time. With that, we left the bank. After returning home and explaining the day's events to Ashley and James, they praised us for our actions. Later, the bank president, the recently absent branch manager, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Johnson's father came to our home to apologize. We deeply regret the inconvenience our employee caused. I'm very sorry, said the bank president, with the others also apologizing. I never thought it would come to the bank president himself, but I cannot let it slide. Then, Mr. Johnson's father, I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience my son has caused you, apologized profoundly. Mr. Johnson's father, an executive at the bank, had used his position to secure a job for Mr. Johnson, who had trouble finding employment, and placed him in a downtown branch. However, due to his poor performance, he was demoted and transferred to our branch, which he shared with us. It was frustrating to be assigned someone like him, but what irritated me the most was seeing such a high-ranking bank official apologizing. Yet, Mr. Johnson showed no sign of remorse. This was the most frustrating. His attitude, standing at the back with his hands clasped and one foot forward as if bringing his father meant he was automatically forgiven, was the most irritating. No matter how many times you apologize, I cannot forgive you. It seems Mr. Johnson has not reflected on his actions. I said coldly, and Mr. Johnson's father, I will have a serious talk with Michael. However, Michael is still 25, young and learning about society. Could you possibly forgive him this time? Defended Mr. Johnson with his statement. This was too much for Christopher, who had been silent until now, reaching his limit. No, it's not just about your son being incompetent at his job. It's a question of his character. What kind of upbringing did he have? He called us nothing but garbage farmers. The three others, excluding Mr. Johnson, were shocked, their faces turning pale. They hadn't realized he had been so offensive. Mr. Johnson glared at us. Calling you garbage farmers and then tattling on me? I didn't say anything wrong. He yelled angrily. Be quiet. The bank president glared at Mr. Johnson and rebuked him. Mr. Johnson trembled with frustration and sulked. I thought it was over, but seeing Mr. Johnson's attitude, I told the three others everything Mr. Johnson had said to us previously. Mr. Johnson was forcibly made to apologize by his father, but it was merely for show. Such an apology was worse than none at all. It only made things more unpleasant, and I was about to ask them to leave when the bank branch manager's phone started ringing non-stop. The bank branch manager excused himself to take the call, his expression darkening before he ran back to the bank president. Bank president, it's serious. The call was from the branch. We're seeing a surge in account closures, and we've lost over $1 million in deposits. The bank branch manager reported with a near-tearful look to the bank president. We were all shocked by this unexpected news when Ashley and James returned from shopping. James came over to us. I've actually been hearing about this situation for a while. I was a big fan of Mr. Smith's work and had been recommending your bank to my contacts. It's a shame," he said with a troubled smile. James explained that after talking about Mr. Johnson's handling of things, business owners feared their loans might suddenly be cut off and had started consulting with other banks. Indeed, Mr. Johnson, unable to accept his demotion, had been cutting off loans to deficit companies to quickly improve his performance and return downtown. Companies that had secured deals with other banks were canceling their accounts and securing new loans elsewhere. The cancellations were likely to continue. Upon hearing this, the bank president said without making eye contact, "Michael, you've caused too much damage to the bank. Don't bother coming in tomorrow." Mr. Johnson couldn't seem to accept those words. "What does that mean?" he asked the bank president back. "It means you're fired. I'll inform you of the official termination date later, so please wait at home until then," the bank president said with a sharp look. Truly the top of the bank. "No way!" Mr. Johnson turned pale and pleaded with his father. "Dad, do something, please. I want to aim for the top at the bank. Now that it has come to this, I can't protect you anymore. Where did I go wrong in raising you?" Mr. Johnson was abandoned by his father, and in desperation, "I'm so sorry. I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. So please, could you forgive me?" He came to us and apologized. It was a punishment for thinking he could get away with anything because his father was an executive. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him. "So, you finally apologized, but I have no intention of forgiving you. This is the natural outcome. Please never show your face to us again." With that, I kicked Mr. Johnson and his group out of the house. Mr. Johnson lingered at the front door for a while, crying and apologizing, but we didn't respond at all, so he left. Later on, Mr. Johnson's official dismissal was decided. In the countryside, neighborhood gossip spreads quickly. Even ordinary people who heard that companies were moving their bank accounts to other banks feared that the branch might close and were transferring their savings to other banks. Sometimes I pass by the bank, but it's deserted and lacks vitality. It might only be a matter of time before it goes under. I wondered why Mr. Johnson had been sent to this branch, but it turns out this place was doing well, and they thought it could cover for one bad employee. That one employee led the branch to the brink of closure. Mr. Johnson's father was demoted as a result of taking responsibility, and it seems he hardly has any work now. Mr. Johnson tried to use his experience to work at another bank, but his bad reputation had spread so widely that he could no longer work in the same industry. Naturally, no bank would hire him, and it seems he's being rejected at the document screening stage, even by other companies. I heard rumors that he's now living by juggling part-time jobs from morning till night without a day off. We have started using other banks as our main banks, and were able to receive loans under better conditions than before. As Mr. Smith had predicted, we made a profit the following year, steadily reduced our deficit, and succeeded in turning a profit after a few years. The vegetable jam I developed was featured on TV and became popular on social media for its appearance as well. More than anything, I'm happy we could make Christopher's dream of having many people eat the vegetables he grew come true. Christopher is even more motivated to grow vegetables and has succeeded in creating new varieties. The company's increased fame has also led to more people wanting to work with us. Now that people are gathering from all over the country, we have no problems with the serious shortage of successors or securing personnel in agriculture. Currently, we are further expanding our business scale, making part-time work possible, and creating a nursery to contribute to the local community by providing a work-friendly environment for the locals.